Welcome back. We are going to be touching on adding and subtracting fractions today. So, if we look at example 9, okay, of page 19 of 468, Ella eats one half of a bar of chocolate and further eats another third. What fraction of the bar has she eaten? Alright, so in this case, do take note that you are looking at one half of the bar. Alright, one half of the bar, and following that a further third. This further third refers to the original bar. So for example, if using a rectangle to represent it, when you have half the bar eaten, okay, half the bar eaten, she eats a further third. A further third refers to if the original bar was split into 3 sections. This would be another third. Alright, so that's what the question is talking about. So what does it actually mean in this case? So as per the explanation over here, you have first half, alright, plus the remaining 1/3. And your job is to figure out what is the common denominator so that you will be able to add both fractions up to give you one single fraction. So in this case, the common denominator is basically 6. So for half, you multiply by 3. 2, you multiply by 3. This gives you 3/6. And for 1/3, you multiply by 2. And 3, you multiply by 2, which gives you 2/6. Therefore, giving you 5/6 as the final fraction. Alright, so let's move on to the next page. Based on example 10. Alright, so if I were to walk through the example with you, work out 3/4 plus 1/6. Alright, so same thing, the idea is to change the denominator to a common denominator for both fractions. Okay, for both fractions. In this case, 3/4. Alright, 3/4. We will change it to denominator 12. Alright, denominator 12, which we will multiply by 3. Wait, let me change the color. Here, alright. And bottom, you multiply by 3 to give you 9/12. Similarly, for 1/6, you multiply by 2. And 6, you multiply by 2 to give you 12. So 2/12 to give you 9/12 plus 2/12, which eventually gives you 11/12. That will be your final answer. So this is for addition. Similarly, for example 11, it is for subtraction. Right, so I will leave it for you to do it on yourself. Example 12, basically this will be involving now what you have learned previously, which is mixed number. So first up, you will need to basically change your mixed number into improper fractions first. So this is what they did from 3/1/3. 3 times 3 gives you 9, 9 plus 1 gives you 10. So 10 on top and 3 at the bottom. Whereas for 1/3, you have 4. 1 times 4 gives you 4. 4 plus 3 gives you 7, which is divided by 4, 7/4. So in this case, 10/3 minus 7/4, you will need to figure out what is the common denominator. Okay, in this case, we are going to take 12 as the common denominator. So over here, you are going to multiply by 4. And over here, you're going to multiply by 4. Same thing, you'll get 40/12. Whereas for 7/4, you multiply by 3. 4, you multiply by 3, which gives you 12 as well. So therefore, you have 40/12 minus 21/12. And simply, if you combine them together, if you have the same denominator, you will and you can combine both fractions into a single fraction in terms of this, where you have 40 minus 21/12. Therefore, 19/12, and eventually you always want to leave it in the simplest form or mixed number. 19/12, you will get 1 full whole and 7/12 remaining, which is over here. Okay? So basically the key points is you need to have a common denominator whenever you are dealing with addition or subtraction of fractions itself. Alright? And usually choose the lowest common denominator. So do not choose something that is so big, because it will involve much more calculations. Okay, of course, sometimes for the ease of it, you might just multiply by 10 instead of 2 or 5, those kind of stuff. Okay, so with that, let's move on to exercise 4. All right, exercise 4. So similarly, I'll pick some questions over here to illustrate the points. Okay, so let's start with question 1. Okay, let's start with question 1. So this is simple. You have same denominator for both case. So this is just a pure addition of 2 plus 4 over 7, which gives you 6 over 7. Okay, and let's try something slightly harder, maybe with a minus sign. So with number 4, okay, number 4, in this case, 11 over 20 minus 3 over 10, denominator is different. However, rather than just multiplying 20 by 10 and 10 times 20, obviously that's the most straightforward way, but if the denominator is too big, you realize that it's a little bit of a hassle. Alright, so I'm just going to be multiplying, making 20 the common denominator. So I will take 3 over 10, I'll multiply by 2 on top and 2 at the bottom, which gives you 11 over 20 minus 6 over 20. This therefore gives you 5 over 20. And we are not done with this yet because this is not the simplest form. You should note by now that there is a common factor of 5 and 20, which we will be able to cancel it off, alright, to give you 1 and 4. Therefore, your answer will be 1/4. Alright. Now, let's move on to slightly more difficult. Let's give you a try. Number 7. Alright, number 7. Oops. Okay, number 7. So you will convert this to improper fractions. 3 times 4 gives you 12, which gives you plus 1, 13 over 4. Plus 1 times 6, 6 plus 1, 7 over 6. And now we have to make it the common denominator. Alright, so let's use 12 as a base. So 13 times 3, 39, plus 7 times 2, 14 over 12. This will give you 39 plus 12, plus 14 divided by 12. So 39 plus 14 gives you 53. 53 over 12. So this is technically 4 wholes because you have 48. Alright, 48. 4 times 12 gives you 48. And 53 minus 48, you get 5 over 12. Alright, so that was plus. Let's try something slightly harder with a subtraction. So let's do this. Okay, let's do this for example 12. We have 36. Okay, 36, 3 over 8. So first step we're going to do is to convert it to improper fraction. So we will have 36 multiplied by 8, okay, plus 3 divided by 8. Alright, minus 32 times 12 plus 7 divided by 12. Alright, this is the steps to actually do it. So obviously, if you do not have calculators, you will have to end up calculating and multiplying this out. So you will get 291, alright, 291, and you will get 391 over 12. Okay, so next is to make the common denominator. So common denominator, so in this case it doesn't come, is straightforward. If you do 8 times 12 and 12 times 8, that's the simplest, but numbers might be a bit too big. So a common denominator you can find is actually 24. Okay, where 8 times 3 gives 24, whereas 12 times 2 gives you 24 as well. So if you proceed on to multiply this by 3, this by 3, this by 2, this by 2, you will get, okay, 291 multiplied by 3, you will get 873 divided by 24 minus 391, alright, times 2 gives you 782 over 24. Okay, so now you can combine both together, alright, and you get your answer of 91 over 24. This gives you a mixed number of 3 wholes. Okay, 3 times 24 will basically be 72. So if you take 91 minus 72, this gives you a 19 over 24. Okay, Of course, you will need to do quite a bit of manual calculations for questions like this. But of course, this is just to practice. During exams itself, you will have the assistance of a calculator, which you won't even need to do all these small little steps. Okay, so let's move on. All right, to exercise 4. Exercise 4. So let's do 13 and 14. Okay, 13 and 14. So Lee does 1/4 of her homework before dinner and a further 1/3 after dinner. What fraction of her homework remains undone? If you remember previously, like the chocolate bar for Ella, this is actually similar. So first you have 1/4, alright, and a further 1/3. So whatever that's remaining for 1/3. So in this case, you just have to figure out the fraction involved based on what the question mentioned. So in this case, it's quite simple. You will basically make 12 the common denominator, where you have 3/12 plus 4/12. This gives you 7/12. So this is for number 13. Okay, next we move on to number 14. Alright, number 14. Chemical consists of 4 compounds A, B, C, D. A is 1/6, B is 2/5, C is 1/10, and the rest is D. What fraction of the chemical is D? Okay, so this is where it requires a little bit of further thinking. A chemical contains of 4 compounds, which means that a chemical is a complete unit, and this involves 4 different parts, A, B, C, D, which means that eventually all these 4 parts add up to give you one whole. Okay, one whole. In this case, it will be you can form an equation with this, where A is 1/6 and B is 2/5 and C is 1/10 plus D, which is question mark, and we know for sure this must equals to one whole. So you can do the fractions and add it up before you minus, but for me, I would like to do everything on the right hand side. So I will have D equals to 1 minus 1/6 plus 2/5. Actually, this is wrong. It's minus because we are shifting everything to one side, and minus 1/10. This gives you your answer. Okay, or rather start working, or maybe let's do it this way. Okay, so it's a little bit clearer for you guys. So for number 14, let's do it over here. Okay, so if I split it half, so number 14, yep, number 14. Okay, so we have 1/6 plus 2/5 plus 1/10 plus D equals to 1. Okay, so when I want to change to make D the subject formula, I will basically minus everything on both sides. Okay, whatever you do to both sides, if you do it equally, it will not change the question. So in this case, what do I mean? So I would want to minus 1/6 minus 2/5 minus 1/10, and D, I do not do anything because that's what I want. Okay, so when I say minus, I mean minus this onto the original. Okay, so if I would do it one step at a time, plus D. Okay, so left hand side is done. So I'm basically cancelling out. Okay, I'm basically cancelling out minus 1/6 plus 1/6, because that gives you 0. Minus 2/5 plus 2/5, which gives you 0. Minus 1/10 plus 1/10, which also gives you 0. Okay, and of course on 1, if you do it on the left hand side where you have this portion here, where you have added in, on the other side you must do the same thing. So you minus 1/6 minus 2/5 minus 1/10 to give you the finalized equation. So you will have, for simplicity's sake, D equals to 1 minus 1/6 minus 2/5 minus 1/10. Okay, so there is now basically 1 minus 1/6. So if I were to simplify this, this will be 5/6 minus 2/5 minus 1/10. So your objective is to figure out what is the common denominator. In this case, let's start with 30. Alright, 30 for the first two, or in fact the last one with 1 over 10, you can figure it out. So let's do 30. So how do you get 30? 6 times 5, so you have 25 over 30, minus 6 times 2, 12 over 30. And if you would like to make the last one as 30 the denominator, 1 times 3, 3 over 30. So now that you have all 30 as the common denominator, you will be able to excuse me, subtract them all together, and you get this as your final fraction, which eventually gives you 25 minus 12 gives you 13 minus 3, 10 over 30. And if you simplify this, it'll be 1/3. Alright, so easy. So in this case, the fraction of the answer is 1/3. Okay, so that is for exercise 4. Alright, in the next video, I will be touching on exercise 4 star. Similarly, any questions you guys have, please leave in the comments and let me know if there's any questions that you are not sure.